Hey, so today we're going to finish the vlog, the last 3 books in Group D of the Nonfiction Booktube Prize quarterfinal. And at the end of the vlog, I will have the rankings. So today is Wednesday, May 20-something, and I've been attempting to read Trick Mirror now since Saturday, and frankly it put me to sleep. I couldn't get into that first essay, and today it just clicked. This had to restart it because I'm having issues with the topic. It's about the internet. She and I have a 40-odd year difference in age. And I was impressed when she said that she started using the internet at 10 years of age. So, yeah. And she is obviously a person who has a lot more experience on the internet. She's made her career off the internet. So she speaks to the problems that she thinks have come about on the internet since she was 10 years old, and how the internet has curdled, quote unquote, that's her term, how the internet has curdled and how it has affected, for example, solidarity is what I'm reading about now, how it has cheapened solidarity, how it has affected, for example, movements, and how it tends to make someone think that their opinion is as important as their actions. Yeah. Basically, she makes a lot of generalizations, which leaves out a whole swath, a grand part of the world. The world does not revolve around the internet as much as the internet would like to think so. It does not. And, I've been having conversations with her. On the one hand, because of that, it's like our colonial administrators here in Puerto Rico who now want everything done on the internet, despite the fact that in Puerto Rico there's a huge digital divide, and we have a large number of people who live in poverty and can't afford to have the internet or be connected to the internet. And as happens in Puerto Rico, I assume happens even in the United States. So yeah, that's part of it. Another part are those sections in which I agree with her. Yeah? And the part about how generalizations, how some people come to believe that opinions on the internet and putting a hashtag on the internet, whichever platform you know, whichever, doesn't matter, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok, whatever, that equals action, that equals solidarity. And as my local radio disc jockey nags about every single day, being on the internet is not the same as being an activist. It's not the same as community organizing. And that has been made very clear during the pandemic. People trying to have the same kind of effect on the streets, and it's not the same. It's not the same at all. So yeah, she raises some very compelling questions. I don't agree with everything she said in this essay, and I'm hoping to plug on through with this book of essays. Now I'm noticing that 2 of the books so far in this Booktube prize have made me sleep, have frankly made me fall asleep. And I don't know if it's the pandemic, if it's my sleeping patterns, but I've paid more attention to those books because of that fact. Because I've had to go back, I've had to reread, I've had to give them extra attention, because frankly the reading has been harder. So that's all for today, keeping it short.
Today is Thursday, May 21st. I've spent all morning continuing with essays in Trick Mirror. Finally finished the first one, which took me since Saturday. I told you my problems with that one before. Finally started the second one, which was about reality TV. I hate reality TV. And it was about 8 teenagers that recorded a series for reality TV, but coincidentally in Vieques, Puerto Rico. So yeah, that was the only attraction to it. Then comes the essay on the ideal woman, the chopped salad, and the bar method. And I'm still reading that one. So today is Saturday, May the 22nd. And I finished in one day this fantastic, fantastic book, Sea People, The Puzzle of Polynesia by Christina Thompson, about Polynesia, this vast, vast territory of in the Pacific, how Polynesians populated this triangle. You see it right there on the map. Triangle of enormous size with hundreds and hundreds of miles between each island. And from Easter Island all the way to New Zealand, and how they got there, who were the first Polynesians, their creation myths, the different creation myths in the different islands. And then once colonization got there, and starting with Captain Cook from the very beginning, and the different Polynesians that he took on board with him on his various trips. From there on, how Europeans tried to explain the phenomenon of how Polynesians populated the islands, and the different theories, including far-fetched theories like that they were Aryans. Yeah, that was fascinating. All the way to the end. One day, took me one day, got up 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, last night, I discovered that there was an audiobook. So I paired the audiobook that was on Scribd with the physical copy, and another book that read like butter. this reads like butter. And she raises some very fascinating questions and talks about the latest findings, scientific findings, for example, archaeological findings. The people had thought that there were no archaeological finds or remains, but there are, and then how carbon dating has shed new light on when Polynesians first populated, for example, New Zealand, and how that has affected the dates, the historical dates that were previously given, and then how DNA testing has shed light also on Polynesia and the Polynesians themselves. And then the questions about navigation, whether Polynesians were good navigators or whether they were just wind-blown, right? They just arrived at different islands by chance, blown by the winds, by accident. That was fascinating in and of itself. And the way she ended the book, this is going to be so hard. This is going to be so hard because there's so many good books. This one was really, really good. As a nonfiction book, yeah, straight up nonfiction, good narrative style, straightforward writing, and it has its index, has its bibliography, has its footnotes, has its maps, has its pictures. Here they go, right there. The maps and the pictures. A tattooed Marquesan, circa 1804. It's just a fascinating book. There's old Captain Cook. There he is. And the canoes. And that final story about the Hokulea, the voyages, incorporating the traditional navigating style of the Polynesians from ancient times, incorporating it now. Oh, it was just fascinating. So today is Monday, May 25th. Memorial Day is commemorated today. Yeah. And I started reading very early in the morning, continued reading She Said, which I can easily see being made into two movies. One about Harvey Weinstein and the investigation, and the second movie about the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, especially with Dr. Ford's testimony and how that came about as a sequel to the Me Too movement erupting after the Weinstein articles came out. Yeah, and it reads as you would expect of a book written by two consummate, experienced reporters. Yeah, so that's been, and pairing it with the audiobook has also helped a lot. The narrator is doing a fantastic job. Continued with the fifth essay in Gia Tolentino's Trick Mirror. And I oscillate in this book between falling asleep, as I did
oftentimes with Heartbeat of Wounded Knee. For some reason, Trick Mirror and Heartbeat of Wounded Knee make me fall asleep. Something about it. And I oscillate in Trick Mirror between falling asleep and feeling very, very concerned for this young writer. When I stopped reading over the weekend the fourth essay, and I glanced at the title for the upcoming essay, and I saw that it was Ecstasy. The title of this essay is Ecstasy. I even wrote down in my notes, uh-oh, what's coming up? And yeah, exactly what I expected. Ecstasy, uh-oh, and yes. There's a whole lot of stuff here that is just frankly not my demographic. And this has been a constant while reading Gia Tolentino. I feel like I'm having a conversation with somebody who is very, very media savvy, is on the internet constantly, and is familiar with all the acronyms and all the recent gossip and scandals and controversies that occur on the internet, and which I don't follow. And I feel like I'm treading water in a completely unfamiliar atmosphere. I've had to Google a number of times things that are entirely unfamiliar to me, people that are entirely unfamiliar to me, like Mali, like so many, like, for example, overnight celebrity song Twista, the hip hop. It starts off, this one, the fifth essay, starts off with her church experience in Houston, which was combined with her coming of age and finding hip hop music, the local scene in Houston. So I'm learning about the hip hop scene in Houston, much as I was introduced to reality TV. Yeah. At least I learned about the Israeli hip hop violinist Miri Ben-Ari, who has continued onward with her career. And it's name dropping like crazy. Things that I didn't know about. And frankly, are no interest to me. I have to be honest. Not. Yay! I finished, she said. I finished, she said. Yeah. Again, reads like now 3 movies. You could make 3 movies out of this book. One about the Weinstein investigation, another one about Brett Kavanaugh's hearing, specifically how Dr. Ford got to testify, all of that. And then finally, the gathering of the women who had decided to speak out about Weinstein and about Kavanaugh. They had a meeting in Gwyneth Paltrow's house. Yeah. So it was a session about what had happened in their lives after the newspaper articles and after Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Yeah. Not gonna lie, some of the observations that Gia Tolentino has made in especially her first essay have about the internet, about the delusions that surround our participations on the internet and social media, had me thinking about some of the statements that the authors make here, Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, about the seismic change and the profound changes that were made as a result of the Weinstein investigation and the Me Too movement. Yes, there were some changes, especially in the participation of women during these past the 2018 elections, the midterms. But was that only because of the Me Too movement? As a result of the Me Too movement? Or is it a result of a lot of other situations and movements and organizations and the involvement of many, many people, right? So, yeah, engaging book. I enjoyed reading it. Suspenseful in parts, yes. I'm glad Weinstein was sent to jail, of course. I'm not happy that Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court. It just goes to show how entrenched that culture is, how entrenched the system is, right? Okay, so today is Thursday, May 29th, and I had told Robert of the Booktube Prize that I would be ready today, except that I keep getting into these arguments with Gia Tolentino in every essay that she has, and I can't help myself. And right now, in this essay, she's talking about how looking at women celebrities has changed the way people see feminism. But she herself admits that it's complicated. So I'm going back and forth here all the time. It's hard. It's rough. I keep getting into arguments with her. And then some of the language, some of the style is not for me, apparently. Not to say that she doesn't bring up some very compelling issues and some thought-provoking ideas. It's going to be rough. She just said something like, the internet expands the range and reach of hate and unfair scrutiny into infinity. Into infinity. And it's this hyperbolic use of language, is this belief that the internet just reaches to the ends of the earth. No. There's a huge digital divide. Not everybody has access to the internet. Not everybody has that privilege. And much of the time, we're talking to each other. Yeah, so let me leave it at that. Okay, still on Thursday. I just want to get this out here before I forget. That another reason why
this is taking so long is because I've had to Google every internet reference, every personality and internet periodical and magazine that I'm unfamiliar with. I've Googled a gazillion things while I've been reading. Okay, bye. It's still Thursday. I can't believe I'm sitting here reading celebrities, white female celebrities, Winona and Gwyneth, and the difference between, and how the writer suddenly envisions herself as becoming Gwyneth Paltrow when something momentous is happening in Minneapolis right now. Yeah. So, here are the rankings for the 6 books in Group D. First of all, I want to say that it bothers me. It bothers me that I think my reading was affected first by the sheltering in place, by the effects of sheltering in place during the pandemic, and secondly, what happened in Minneapolis and the aftermath that affected me. And it might have affected the rankings. What I'm trying to say is that all 6 books were strong contenders. I guess you could tell that Trick Mirror, for me, was number 6. I could not get on with the essays in that book, despite the fact that she makes quite a few pertinent observations, and yes, but I am not the target audience for those essays. Not by a long shot. Okay? But if you are interested in social media, in the internet, social media entrepreneurs, yeah, you might look at this book. Yes. And if you're a follower of hers, I didn't know about her at all until I read this book. So Trick Mirror comes in at number 6. At number 5, I put Heartbeat of Wounded Knee. Those 2 books, both of them, were a struggle for me to get through, especially Heartbeat, because I had such expectations about what he called celebrating Indian life. And even though I recommend it, because it's a thorough history, much more thorough than anything I've read before, about legislation and how it affects the different tribes and how they have overcome all the strife and all the struggles. It still didn't meet my expectations. I was disappointed. Okay, that's why it came in at number 5. But I don't want to leave off Heartbeat of Wounded Knee without mentioning one of the points that he makes, which really touched me at my core, my Puerto Rican core, is when he mentions the importance of a tribe's sovereignty and how that sovereignty and the consciousness of having sovereignty, how that affects a people, how it what it does for the dignity of a tribe and its possibilities in concrete form, how it manifests in the lives of the people of the tribe. Sovereignty. Yeah. Okay, and then she said was practically a tie, right? Every number 3 and number 4 is like right there, a tie. But I put she said at number 4. And I think I mentioned the reasons why. There seems to be what Gia Tolentino, the one I argue with all the time, what she calls, frankly, delusions. Delusions about exactly what was accomplished with Weinstein's arrest for number 3, The Only Plane in the Sky. Fantastic book, and came in at number 3 because of the choppiness of the oral history. Number 2, Sea People. I really, really enjoyed that book. Something completely new to me, and I liked the way she wrote it, and the topic intrigued me. Yeah. And number 1, made me cry, read like butter. I talked about it already. You saw it in the other video. Just suspenseful, compulsive reading, just grabbed me from the very first. A Woman of No Importance, about the spy Virginia Hall, who was from the United States but worked under a British spy service, and then later on, after the war, worked for the OSS, which was the precursor of the CIA. And she did all her freedom fighting with the French resistance with a prosthetic leg. Fantastic book. So those were the 6 books and how I ranked them for the quarterfinals of the Booktube Prize. Bye!